Thanks. Thanks, Jose. And my handle's up here. I'm at Michigan. And I also have with me at TJAY. So use those hashtags in your tweet for the chance to win a prize. Cool. So we'll get started. My name's Nina Michigan. I'm on the content team here at Twitter. And what my team does is we work with Fortune 100 brands to help them develop their Twitter strategies. We work with their agencies as well. And the goal is, how do we help brands and agencies take advantage of the Twitter platform? What I want to talk to you guys about today is how shifts in the way consumers are consuming video has really changed the way we think about mobile video overall, and really changed the way we think about live platforms in general. So let's dig right into it. First up, I have a pop quiz to kind of wake everybody up after the coffee break. Who can tell me what this moment is? National Championship, great. Who we know won?
Confetti being launched too early.
Confetti came a little too early.
That's true.
And there was no way they were going to clean it up, right? Like they had to call the game right there. So Nova won. So this is the moment when Villanova won the national championship early in April. Let's relive that moment for a second. What it all looked like on TV. So it was this.
Trying to go length of the court with Archie Diacono. 3 seconds at midcourt. Jenkins gives it to Jenkins for the championship.
Got some Carolina fans in the room. I like it. So, but it was a pretty exciting moment, right? Like whether you're a Carolina fan or a Villanova fan, it's pretty amazing. So the minute that this went live on TV, seconds later it was actually cut and distributed throughout Twitter. Thanks to this guy here, TJ, who we'll be speaking with a little bit later, who's on our sports partnerships team. So this content is live on Twitter. So for some reason, you got up, you missed it on TV, you were able to immediately look at your phone and say, okay, what's going on? Which is a huge shift in consumer behavior, right? How many actually watched this game on TV? A couple people? Okay, keep your hands up if you had your phone in your hand when you watched it. Everybody, right? So that's the shift in consumer behavior. All of a sudden, we're watching these major moments, we have our phone in our hand. And what we see from a Twitter perspective is that this leads to a huge explosion of conversation on our platform. In the minute after this moment happened, there were 108,000 tweets about the game ending and the game-winning shot. Pretty incredible explosion of conversation. So what does that mean for marketers, and what can we actually do with this? Well, to me, the fun actually becomes in the moments that happen while everything's still happening on TV, not just in that highlight reel, but in all of the content that pours onto the platform after it. So while you're watching TV, you see the confetti fly down. Maybe it came a little bit too early, whoever said that, yeah? But there's so much content that's coming out about the highlight on our platform. So you get to see and then one more time from an even better angle. So all of those people with their phone in their hand, they're no longer watching TV. They're not watching Villanova cut the nets down. They have their face glued to their phone. They're watching these highlights come in. And to me, the most fun happens not just in vines like this, but this one, which is pretty amazing. I mean, it's just the best reaction you've ever seen, right? Like, this guy wasn't even watching the game live, and he was having so much fun. And then, of course, we have Sir Charles. I mean, how amazing is that? Did you see his little feet dance? Like, it's the best thing ever. Let's watch it one more time, just because I love watching Charles dance. And Kenny Smith, just cool as a cucumber, like walks into the back, no reaction to what's happening behind him. This is the power of live. Did you? Yeah, I know, but he had no reaction. Like, even just from the shot itself as a basketball fan, I'm like, nothing came up out of it. I love it. So this is the power of live. And when we talk to marketers, this is what makes me really excited, because I think it's really transforming the way we think about marketing strategies, the way we think about marketing plans. Did anybody see what Tesla recently did with their launch of the Model 3? A couple people, I'm seeing a few nods in the room. Yes, well, you weren't alone. So the good news is there's hundreds of thousands of people like you. You guys can rise up and have an uprising. It's going to be great. But what Tesla did that was so genius was they recognized this power of live, And they really built it into their marketing plan. So when they wanted to announce this car, they did live Twitter Q&As. Elon Musk has 4 million followers. So it was all about how do you engage that follower base? How do you engage those advocates? They actually released the car for the first time, had the first drive on Periscope here. So the first time people are experiencing this, it all happens in this live streaming opportunity. They actually took the car out on city streets while on Periscope.
Smaller? Just slightly.
It's a little hard to see,
But it's
but
more of a horizontal.
all people kind of discussing the car.
Just slightly.
5 people sitting in it, which
It's more
seems
of a
impossible for a car
horizontal.
that small, but apparently it's true.
And higher.
So with the single screen, you know,
And then they follow up this content by a more traditional spot. So this was a traditional 30, but instead of kind of going the traditional route, putting money against TV, running TV advertising for it, they did it all through digital. This spot performed incredibly well on our platform on Twitter, really drove the conversation, added a lot of buzz to this major launch. And then what happened as a result of this was that there was actually 325,000 pre-orders. I mentioned you're not alone, so you're one of those 325,000, but a great way to drive impact. So when I think about that, I think about the power of live to really make that impact to drive sales. It's a whole new way to market. It's a whole new way to create content and think about the concept of really launching a product to be able to drive the biggest launch that car makers had ever seen. We'll see if it actually comes through. I hope you get your car, but we'll see what happens. What Tesla did that was so fantastic is recognizing that live captures attention. So this is a great quote from Gary Vee. I'm not sure if you guys have seen it, but it's all about the fact that the metric that we're all fighting for, any content creators, any marketers in the room, it's all about capturing attention. And that's the hardest part, right? Everything that we see as consumers moves quickly. The feed moves fast. So how do you capture attention? Tesla was able to do that so successfully with their approach to live, driving that conversation. And that's really the power of our platform as well. And for us, live is really part of our DNA. It's a part of our roadmap that we're continuing to build out. You guys might have seen a recent announcement that we made around a live streaming deal with the NFL. So as of next season, glad you like it, all Thursday night games are going to be live streamed directly on Twitter. So for us, this is an opportunity to kind of continue to capture attention right in that live moment, because we feel like that's the place where you can really make impact. And I'm glad that we have some agreement in the room. It's fantastic. So the best way to kind of sum up what we've done with the NFL and why we did it was this was a tweet from the NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell. He said, "Twitter's where live events unfold. It's the right partner for the NFL as we take the latest step in serving fans around the world live NFL football." And he's completely right. Our platform is the live connection to culture. I'm just going to say that one more time, because if there's one thing I want you guys to take away from my talk today, it's Twitter is the live connection to culture. We are the place where cultural events happen, they explode, and where conversations about them are created. And the reason that's true is because content comes to our platform first, direct from the source, and live. We saw that with the NCAA example. We saw that with the Tesla example. All of this content's coming to our platform first before anywhere else, which means that we're going to have a huge year, because the cultural events that are coming up in 2016 are bigger than any other. We see some big moments like Rio 2016, Copa 2016 for sports fans, as well as moments in fashion, the election. So a huge year for cultural moments, big and small, that attach to various passion points, which represent huge opportunities for marketers to continue that live conversation. So the question I'm often asked in my role at Twitter is, okay, so how do I make the most of it? What do I actually do with this, right? So we need to make content that people are going to want to see and that people are going to want to engage with. And that's all content creators, marketers, et cetera. The first thing that I want to drill home is that the shift has happened. I'm sure you guys have heard this over the past 2 days. We all hear this in our daily lives. People always talk about the shift to mobile. It's happened. We're there. So it's all about creating mobile-first content that people are going to want to engage with on their mobile phones. We saw that, right? We're all on our mobile phones, 24 hours a day? Some people are on it now, and this is what happens. This is our life. So we need to create content that people want to consume in this environment. And when we think about the growth on our platform, all of this, the proof points really lay out. So we're a mobile-first platform, as you guys know. We've seen video just explode on the Twitter platform over the past 12 months. There have been 220 times the number of video views in the past 12 months than we saw in the year prior. And that's faster growth than video on any other platform. And what makes me excited about that is the fact that 93% of our views are mobile. So this is the direction of the future. It's all about consuming content in this live, lean-in environment that's happening directly on your mobile phone. But the reality is we know that all in all video is created equal. So for any advertisers in the room, you're going to know what I'm saying when I say this. eMarketer recently released what are some of the reasons that people don't buy video. Well, fraud is number one. And the ANA actually said that $7 billion of advertising dollars are going to be lost this year to fraud. So on Twitter, we work with Moat. We have a partnership with them. And we've actually established the fact that 99.6% of our ads are viewable by human beings. So that's step one, making sure people are viewing, actual people are viewing ads on our platform. But it's not just enough to make sure humans are watching it. You have to actually make sure that the ads are in view. So viewability. We're committed to having 100% of Twitter ads are viewable. We've verified this with Moat, and they've told us that, yes, to date, 100% is 100%. So creating that content, putting it in an environment that people are able to consume it, do consume it, and that the ads are actually viewable. But the next step is making sure that we have a great product roadmap to support that. So I'm really proud of the fact that we've innovated more than ever before on our video roadmap in the past 12 months. We've had over 10 product launches that have been video focused in the past year. Really exciting growth in this space. And the idea is all about how do we create more video products that have the opportunity to travel. So I like to talk about the fact that Twitter's superpower is the fact that content can be shared. This concept of a retweet being like the greatest brand advocacy that has ever existed. So when you put content out there, how do you make sure that it reaches not just the intended user, but also their entire sphere of influence to make sure that that content can travel and that your brand content can work as hard as possible? So this, to me, is the superpower. And as we think about video products, and you'll see today, how do we make sure that this is built into the DNA? Because it is truly what makes Twitter so unique. So that's the opportunity. How do you reach the most premium audiences on our influential platform? How do you tap into the power of live and really make it yours? That's the first half, right? That's the Twitter piece. But the difficulty becomes for marketers when they say, hey, but the feed moves fast. Like, how do I capture people's attention? We all know that, right? Like, you guys as consumers, when you're looking at your Twitter feed, like, there's just a ton of content. So how does any kind of advertiser or content creator actually break through? Well, the key is earning attention. I go back to that Gary Vee quote. It's all about how do we earn attention in this space in a timeline that moves really fast. We've actually dug into a lot of our video content and come up with 3 tips about what can actually get people to stop in the feed and pay attention. So I'm going to share those with you guys today. I think these are great guidelines as you're looking to create really impactful mobile-first content. The first is create stopping power. How do you engage people in the feed? How do you get their thumbs to stop thumbing through? The second, it's all about this live connection, right? Like, how do we connect live more? How do you use our products and services to be able to drive that connection deeper? And then finally, tapping into creators. So there was an article that was out yesterday in Adweek just about the buying power of these influencers and the fact that they're able to make such an impact on purchase decisions. There's a huge opportunity to align your content with creators, with publishers, to be able to build out your impact and potential impressions. So we're going to go through each of these. I want to start first with creating stopping power because this is the question that I get asked most from a video perspective. I'm creating video content, the feed moves fast. How do I get people to stop and care? So came up with a couple principles that we want to share with you. The reality is they make viewing decisions in seconds. So what's going to actually get them to stop and care? So we put up 3 keys that you need to program into your video content to be able to make impact quickly. And are there any video creators in the room? People actually do this? Okay, so this is a lot of you, right? These are the pain points that you feel all the time. Like, I made this amazing piece of content. How do I actually get people to stop thumbing through their timeline and watch it and pay attention? So we looked at what are the most successful videos on our platform? What are their commonalities? What actually makes them unique? And these are the 3 things that we came up with. So the first is there has to be some kind of hook to get people to stop and engage, something that's going to retain their attention. So what's that reason that people are going to stop, care, and actually stay further? This all has to happen within the first few seconds, by the way, which is why our job as content creators is super hard now, because a lot has to be packed into the beginning of this video content. Next up, really interesting here, we found that people, any kind of people in the first few seconds draws people in. I think this goes back to kind of what everybody's looking at from content. They're looking for that idea of human connection. So this kind of, including people in it, it's going to drive 2 times more retention on your videos when they're in the first few seconds. So how can you program that in? How can you build that in? And then finally, branding. I think this is always like a dirty word a little bit. Like people don't want to put branding in their videos, but the reality is we all have brand metrics that we need to adhere to, that we need to solve for. So you can drive ad recall, drive impact by putting branding in those first few seconds to make sure that your brand comes out as the hero. So I'm going to show some examples and dig into each of these pieces a little bit, but these all sound like some things that are possible. They're just sometimes hard to do, right? So the first is earning attention. So how do you hook somebody in? We found that some kind of action can do a really great job with that. One of my favorites is from Samsung Mobile. So let's watch this one.
What? I can pour this champagne on my phone and it still works. What? Yeah, I was. Kenny, I'm about to put you in a fish tank. What? That's crazy. Your phone can't do that, Max. Here, I have another. What?
The new water-resistant Galaxy S7 Edge.
So this was a piece of content that you guys might have seen on Twitter. You might have seen it across the digital web. They actually also ran it on TV. But what I love about this piece of content was how it successfully earned attention with action. The first thing you see is somebody pouring champagne on a phone. And you're like, okay, I need to stop and understand what's actually happening here. And it was genius, right? Because it's tied into the new product feature. It's all about selling the fact that this phone is water resistant. So really smart way to hook people in with action because you didn't really know what was coming next and you wanted to stop and engage. Lil Wayne also doesn't help either, right? Doesn't hurt either. Which brings me to people. So whether it's Lil Wayne or just any kind of people that you have, talk to brands a lot who are like, oh, we have talent, but we want to pull them in later in the video. If you have people, you want to make sure that they're front and center in your video content to engage people to pull them in. This is an example that I've probably seen 50 times in my timeline, but every time I see it, I still want to engage because it's such a beautiful piece of content. And it just opens on people. So we'll let this play.
Você tá bem. Esqueci.
Talisku, co pan rozumie talisku?
Hej, lasten är roa! Hostade montage!
E aí, gatinha? Tu tá indo pra onde? Tu tá indo pra onde?
大赛马上要临近了，
我不想再练了。
儿子，你行的啊，你可以的，孩子。
It's pretty powerful, right? Like, every time I see that, I get a little bit misty because it's an amazing way to connect with people. There's so much human emotion in it. And I love the way that P&G was able to just say, here are the people who are important to us. It's not superstars. You might not know a lot of these athletes. You probably will come August, but you might not know them now. So it's just about connecting with people, using them as a hook to get people to stay and enjoy the story. One thing to note here also, that was long. Right? Like it was long for mobile video, but what we've seen is that, and I know this infuriates a lot of the creatives that I talk to, but it's about good storytelling. And the length is really about how can you keep people engaged, how can you make sure that they're staying with the content, that they care about the story that you're telling. So let the story kind of dictate what that length should be to make sure that you're making the maximum impact there. So people, huge part of getting attention, earning attention, keeping attention on your content. The last piece is branding. And I'm going to show this example. So this is from Wendy's. They launched a spicy chicken sandwich last summer, I guess. Some of you might have had it. I haven't, so I don't know if it's delicious. But they created a ton of content all about their spicy chicken sandwich. But the hard part in dining brands is the fact that they all kind of start to look the same, right? Like it's very hard to start to distinguish whose product is what. So Wendy's put this content together, and they wanted to make sure that you knew it was Wendy's.
You're looking at the original spicy chicken sandwich. Wendy's spicy chicken sandwich. Which means you're thinking about it again. Which means now you'll see it everywhere you go. See you soon.
Pretty simple spot, really short, but to the point. Make sure that the branding is there throughout so that people are able to engage and that that memory of Wendy's and this sandwich is what kind of keeps them coming back. So this is the kind of content that's going to drive really strong results with those ad recall and brand impact studies as well. The last tip that I want to give around stopping power is actually kind of a bonus, but it's about sound off strategy. So I think this is one of the hardest things with storytelling, right? How do you think about what the role of sound is in a world where sound is sometimes agnostic? People don't always have their headphones in. People don't always have their volume turned up. Somebody might be watching volume on their video on their phone right now, and I don't even know because there's no volume, right? So how do you plan for that as a creative? How do you program your content for this sound off world? Well, I like what Starbucks did, and I have the sound off for a reason, obviously. It's all about how to soft brew a cup of coffee. What they did was they actually have captions over a lot of the action. So they're giving you little tidbits of things that you need to learn. They're using those captions to guide you through the narrative, to help you through the story, so that you're getting some level of understanding and engagement from it. You get a ton more if you're actually listening to this woman talk. She'll walk you through the whole process in this how-to video, but you're getting just enough information that you can replicate, understand, and actually engage with, and probably appreciate this piece of content without the sound on. And I think this is really important for all content creators to think about. You have to make sure that your content can be enjoyed both with sound and without. So those are the 4 tips for how do you create stopping power. How do you make sure that you're earning attention in a feed that moves really fast. Next, I want to shift to how do you kind of harness the power of a platform like ours that's built on the power of live. So it's all about connecting live with consumers. And we've actually developed 2 new formats that do a really good job of this, that are really focused on how do we make sure that that connection is live and more important than ever. So conversational ads, which actually use video to spark advocacy at scale, and I'll go through a great example of that. And secondarily, Periscope, the live streaming app. How do you connect with consumers directly in that live environment, which I think is kind of the new frontier for all of us content creators, right? Let's start with conversational ads. So using video strategically to spark advocacy at scale. Built into this program, it's all about sharing. It's all about how do you tap into that superpower of Twitter to make sure that content is going to travel. Brand that did this really well is Marvel for their Captain America Civil War launch. You guys might have seen it. Apparently it was a pretty big deal when it launched last weekend. People who are really passionate about this are really passionate about it. And so much of the premise of their marketing strategy, and we've been working with them a ton since the movie was first announced at the Super Bowl, has been how do you decide which side you're on, right? So there's this whole debate about whether you're Team Captain America or Team Iron Man. I'm not close enough to the characters to really have a big feeling on this, but I'm sure there are people in the room who are very passionately one side or the other. So what we worked with them on is they were like, listen, we launch next weekend. We want to create a ton of buzz and conversation about our movie. So this is an actual ad that they put out from their handle. The question was, the time is now. Let the world know who you stand with. You never know who's listening. How do you pick your side? So those are actually tweet buttons where the user selects which side they're on. In this example, we actually tweeted Team Cap. And then a tweet goes out from their handle with that same piece of content, encouraging all of their followers to then participate and engage in the choice and continue that moving on. So a couple things that are amazing.
Jared?
This actually comes out from their handle. But what they did here was they actually had auto replies coming back. So it's not just the fact that you want that initial content to travel. You want to connect live and start to have a conversation with people who care about your content. So what I love about this is it's about a movie studio or a movie itself actually having interactions and developing conversations with individuals. Totally genius, totally never been done before. I think really the frontier of marketing is making these personal connections. They did these auto replies in 3 ways. One was actually name-based, where it's personalized content. And I'll show you an example of it because it's literally the coolest freaking thing you'll ever see. Generic, so if you didn't have one of the most popular names, you actually got a generic. All of this content was from the talent. So it was a generic video that said, hey, thanks for voting. I'm glad to see that you're on my side. Content like that still makes you feel like there's that live connection to the content that you participated in. And then finally, a select number of influencers actually had one-to-one responses that were recorded live and were sent to them. So for a very elite group, but again, tapping into kind of the people of the most influence to be able to drive further conversation and impact for their movie. Let's dig into the name-based replies, though, because I think they're pretty amazing. What they did was they figured out, let's look at the 400 most popular names. We're going to create personalized, tailored content for those names so that once somebody with that name participated, that was the content that appeared back in their feed. So somebody you guys might know, Jack, @Jack. He's actually Team Iron Man. Didn't know if anybody knew that, but he's Team Iron Man, so he participates and then gets this back in his feed.
Jack, I just knew you were going to make the right decision because Jack's a solid name. Jack is a man who makes great decisions throughout his life. Welcome to Team Iron Man, Jack.
I mean, that's pretty amazing. Like, when you get that in your feed, and even Jack was excited, like, he's pretty cool, but he loves getting, like, this kind of personalized content, I think, is at scale. It's scalable to people with those 400 names. So you're reaching a pretty wide audience when you think about the popularity level. And I love the idea of starting to have these personalized interactive conversations. So this is the idea behind conversational video, building out that connection live and making it even broader. Next up, I want to talk about Periscope. Who's played around with Periscope? Who has it on their phone? Couple people. OK. Well, we're going to increase that number today because you guys are going to be so blown away by it. It's going to be great. Yeah?
All the other videos that you've shown where they've done on the phone? Well, I know these are branded videos, but.
Yeah, no, so those are native videos. So they were pieces of content that were created and then uploaded as well. Yeah, so this is kind of the focus of Periscope, which, as you mentioned, is often content created on a phone. So it's an app that we actually purchased last year. It was Apple's 2015 App of the Year, and it's all about live streaming. We also have a partnership with GoPro now where you're able to actually broadcast live from your GoPro through Periscope as well. So building out this capability of live streaming, but the essence here is really about creating that live connection to consumers, probably in the most authentic way possible, right? And what we've seen to date is that there's a huge emotional response to these videos, which makes sense because when you think about the concept of live, you're really engaging in something that's happening in the moment with other people. So the emotional response to this is huge. So 27% stronger than online video norms. And so when we talk to marketers, when we talk to content creators, this is something that they want to tap into. They want to say, what are the best ways that we can actually engage with this? So I want to walk you through some of the use cases we've seen with Periscopes that brands have done, because I think they're pretty phenomenal, and it's amazing to think about all of the creativity that could come out of this platform when you're able to connect live through live streams. So BMW actually released a limited edition i3 on Periscope Live. You guys might be able to see it in the back, but there's a 1-800 number that's up there where you could actually call to order the car. In this case, the car was 100% delivered. It wasn't just a pre-order, though. So car was delivered, all revealed on Periscope. It's also about creating access to talent. So this is the stars of Scandal. I don't know if anyone here is a big fan of Scandal, but if you are, the opportunity to chat live with them, the opportunity to Periscope, this is a chance for movie studios, shows, media companies to get closer to the fans that they have. Those fans are huge advocates for everything that they do. This is an opportunity to break down that wall and really create those connections to talent. So you can see all the hearts coming in. You can see all the comments. These were, for people who love Scandal, this was the best day that they've ever had. Next up, we're seeing brands use Periscope to take people where they haven't been. How do you take them behind the scenes? How do you humanize pieces of your brand? So GE actually put a phone running Periscope on a drone and took it around to their facilities because they wanted to show new and interesting angles of their brand to really help tell their brand story. I love this example because I think it's so in line with GE's marketing strategy to help humanize and kind of go behind the scenes of a pretty complex company. But the idea of doing it on Periscope, the idea of kind of giving these behind-the-scenes shots of pretty complex factories was really successful, and people just absolutely loved it.
That was live?
That was live, yeah. The last piece I want to share on live streaming is this idea of amplifying live event. So we talk to a lot of marketers who will say, I have access to talent, or I'm running a sponsorship at a live event, and I want to do everything I can to amplify that opportunity. That's exactly what Target did at the Grammys this year. So did anybody see the live music video with Gwen Stefani? A couple people, yeah? Not many Gwen Stefani fans in the room. She's wonderful. We should all really like her. So she actually they created a live music video in one of their commercial pods at the Grammys, but they wanted to amplify it beyond that. It wasn't just about kind of people watching it on TV. They wanted to create ancillary experiences, way to connect live with it. So they ran a Periscope with one of the dancers so that you could actually watch behind the scenes while this was happening on TV. So I'll let this one play because it's pretty amazing. So we started the day talking about Twitter as a really powerful second screen. I think this is another great example of how you can use Periscope to enhance this live experience that people are happening. If you're a fan of Gwen Stefani, if you're watching this live music video and you can't wait to see more, Periscope, having it up on your phone, is a great way to kind of have that simultaneous interaction and really go a little bit deeper and get a little bit more personal, which is really all about what connecting live means for our platform. So speaking of people like Gwen Stefani, the last thing I want to touch on is how can you tap into creators to leverage their popularity, to leverage their reach authentically to share your message. So there's two ways that you can do that on our platform. It's all about co-creation with our influencer network. We actually purchased an influencer network called Niche about 1.5 years ago. So using them to co-create content and then curating content through our Amplify program, which we'll talk a little bit more about, and we have TJ here as well to discuss. So the basics of co-creation. We've heard a ton about this, and I mentioned it a little bit. Influencers are driving huge engagement on our platform and beyond, right? So they have huge spending power. They have huge influence over the audiences that people care about. And I like to call them kind of handheld celebrities. They're people that people engage with on their mobile phones. It's all about leveraging their prowess and their popularity to share your message authentically. So how can you do that? Well, from a brand's perspective, this is a great way to earn attention because these are people that people care about, that they want to engage with. We have a couple techniques that can be used for this because I think the key is all about making sure your brand mission and your brand purpose really shines through. So one example is what HP actually did with personality-driven creators. So these are people who have a ton of followers. They're really kind of fun and engaging. And HP's run a campaign for the past 2 years talking about using these creators to tell the story of their products. So stories like this. Maybe Totally an untraditional use of the HP tablet, right? Or Zach King, who did this. And I love that one because that really taps into the actual product feature, was that it's a laptop and a tablet. Does it in a really smart way, and is able to tap into Zach King, who has millions of followers and people who absolutely adore him. So that's personality-driven creators. The other side of it is using their ability as artists and as creators to tell your brand story and really infuse personality into your product. So Starbucks, when they launched their red cups, which is like a big kickoff of the holiday season, which feels like it happens earlier and earlier, pulled in these creators to start to tell this story and to share out more content, so that the day that red cups launched, like all of Twitter really looked like it was all about red cups. So there was this. And this. Great snackable pieces of content that tell their brand story, but do it in a little bit more of an engaging and authentic way than maybe Starbucks can do itself. It's a great way to continue to kind of grow your content library based on some of your brand objectives. So using creators to help co-create content and drive impact. The next step is all about curation. So we have a program called Amplify, and the purpose of Amplify is really how can you align the video content that you guys have created, all of your premium videos, with publisher content. We have 250 Amplify partnerships, 250 partners to align with. And there's two ways that we see brands actually use them. Traditional kind of pre-roll approach. So how do you put your pre-roll in front of this premium content, content that people want to engage with, that they're looking for on our platform? Run standard.
The world's most powerful nutrient extractor, the NutriBullet RX.
And then the video
legend
content
of
begins.
Ciudad Blanca.
And then the next step is actually amplifying content sponsorship. So we have a lot of brands who tell us, hey, we have a big event that we want to make sure gets amplified. We want to share out these sponsorships. This is a great way to make the most of those major live moments. So I talked about 3 ways that you can earn attention as content creators. 1, making sure you create stopping power. 2, connecting live. And then 3, tapping into creators. Next up, I want to spend a few minutes talking about what's next for Twitter. We have with us TJ Adeshola, who's on our sports partnership team at Twitter. TJ actually is one of the amazing people who makes sure that all of those highlights that happen in the NCAA game or in another place actually are immediately broadcast onto our platform, so we can have him to thank for all of those things. But let's talk a little bit about what's next on Twitter, and I'll take a seat next to you, and we can kind of have a little Q&A. So TJ, do you want to start by telling us a little more about your job at Twitter?
My mom still is surprised that I actually get paid for what I do. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Good stuff. How many sports fans do we have in the room? All right, good stuff.
Got a lot of fans, TJ.
Apparently. So Amplify is essentially the culmination of these amazing relationships, complementary relationships we've had with publishers all over the space. So you think about Viacom, ESPN, NFL, NBA. We've had great relationships with these guys for several years, and Amplify is kind of the culmination of all of those efforts. So what is Amplify, right? You have these amazing moments that happen on broadcast or in real time, i.e. the March Madness example, or Kanye saying that he's going to run for president in 2020, right? These are all moments that unfold on Twitter, and brands have the opportunity to kind of travel alongside that content. Some of what Nina does is working with brands to create content on a day-to-day basis. Creating content 52 weeks out of the year is not an easy task. So our team kind of steps in and says, hey, we've got all these amazing relationships with premium publishers. You can kind of interject this content within your day-to-day content mix. So we've got a lot of cool stuff going on, specifically with the NFL. We've got the NBA playoffs going on as well. So we've got great relationships with partners. Yeah. And brands love it because it's an opportunity to travel alongside really premium content on the platform.
And we have, I mentioned we have 250 Amplify partners, so that's a lot, but it's also broken up amongst passion points, right? Sure. So the idea is Can brands start to align with that?
Yeah, it's interesting. So we see brands leverage, amplify, or these partnerships in a couple different ways, and you kind of touch on multiple. One is you think about like State Farm and the NBA. They've had a long-standing relationship for years. So they've got the sponsorship and they want to create an extension that lives on social, amplifies the means for them to do so. You also have brands who say, I want to be in the NFL, but I'm not paying that check for a spot in the Super Bowl.
Right.
How can I kind of associate myself with NFL content? We step in and provide a way for brands to kind of live in conjunction with NFL content in a way that they wouldn't typically be able to get it. I was at a wedding on Saturday. Don't judge me, we're friends here. And I was sitting in the wedding. There was a Blazers-Warriors game going on. So I had my phone, and I'm like, Dame Lillard's scoring 40 points, and I'm here watching this wedding. So I'm scrolling through my timeline, and I'm getting all these amazing Amplify updates. I'm getting the three-pointers he's hitting. I'm getting Draymond Green talking smack on the court. Meanwhile, I'm sitting at a wedding. So they see my face, and I see the game. So it was kind of like this amazing experience that allowed me to still be leaned in and still look like I was at the wedding. So I killed two birds with one stone.
It's like the new, like every guy's best friend is going to be there, the Amplify right on their
Absolutely,
phone.
absolutely.
So we've talked a little bit about brands able to take advantage of this, but it can be hard, right, to create content. I mean, we just went through kind of some of the tips why creating content can be really difficult. Have you seen really good examples or ways that brands have leveraged this in a good way?
Yeah, you showcase a bunch of cool content plays with HP and with the influencers. One of my favorites was during an example that you showcased, which was March Madness. Powerade or Coca-Cola is an exclusive partner, the beverage partner of all things March Madness. So they said, look, TJ, we know there are going to be a bunch of amazing moments. You know a dunk's going to happen. You know an upset's going to happen. You know a three-point shot's going to happen. They created 10 separate pieces of creative to travel alongside these specific moments in the game. So when Northern Iowa hit that game-winning three-pointer to win in an upset, they had a creative that said, upsets happen. And it was a 6-second ad that ran alongside this great Northern Iowa highlight. In the national championship game, I know you're a Carolina fan, I'm sorry. There was a game-winning shot, as we all saw, and they had custom content to run alongside that game-winning highlight. So brands are really getting pretty strategic about how they kind of leverage these premium publishers and these premium partnerships to make sure that they're telling a story that has continuity, a story that's aligned, and provides a really cool user experience for users on the platform.
I love that example. I think one of the questions I get asked most about from a content strategy perspective is how do I plan for live, right? Like I've talked a lot about us being a live platform, but it can be really hard. What Powerade did is like exactly the best practice. So there's so much you can pre-plan for. There's so many moments that are predictable. Create content for that. You said they came up with 10 moments they knew were going to happen in March Madness. You create content for that. All of a sudden, it feels like you're creating content live in the moment, but it's all been pre-planned, it's all been pre-populated, it's all been pre-created. So that, to me, I think is a great example because that's where the magic of Twitter Live really comes together. You're showcasing content highlights that people want to see, and the brand alignment's really smart. It's relevant marketing in the moment and a great way to kind of drive live impact.
Absolutely.
I love that. So the last thing I just want to touch on, I hit on it briefly, but I know our new NFL deal actually was born out of a great relationship that we had with the NFL from our Amplify program. That's right?
Yeah.
And so I think we're still working on kind of all of the pieces of it, but I think it's going to be a big extension of a lot of what you talked about.
Yeah. A lot of it is TBD, as you would imagine, because it's never been done before, per se. So you think of moments like last year where Aaron Rodgers throws his 51-yard Hail Mary, and the NFL tweeted out within 60 seconds. And we saw just this robust amount of content on the platform. Oh my gosh, how'd you tweet it out so quickly? That highlight was amazing. And I think we all kind of had an epiphany at that moment, like, hey, we've got something pretty special here. We've had an existing relationship with the NFL, as you mentioned, for about 4 years or so. They trust us, we trust them. And this is really a byproduct of the existing relationship we've had in place with them. So Live is kind of something that we're doubling down on as a platform. We do believe we are the live connection to culture. We're the live connection to all these amazing moments that happen on a day-to-day basis. So the NFL is kind of our stamp in that particular place. So we're having conversations, active conversations with some of your favorite sports leagues, you name them, where we're exploring what a deeper partnership will look like. As you would imagine, some guys have rights that are encumbered, some don't have encumbered rights. So all of these prospective relationships or partnerships will look different, but look to see some cool updates from Twitter moving forward, specifically in the sports space around all things live.
All things live.
Yeah.
I love that. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, TJ, for joining me up here. Thank you guys for your time and attention. We're going to take questions. Feel free to come up to us for one-on-one. I think we have a few minutes left for the end of the session, so feel free to come up to us and ask. But thank you guys so much for joining, and hope you learned a lot today.
Yes.
Thank you for your attention. Sorry.